Syracuse is facing a lot of good quarterbacks next season, but who is the best?
You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome in Locked On Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer, and thank you for making us your first listen of every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day, and we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And on this week's Poll Friday, I asked you guys the question, which quarterback out of all the good ones that the Orange are going to face next year is the best? All right, and you guys voted this week. Now, earlier in the week, on Wednesday, we discussed some of the top quarterbacks the Orange are going to face, right? We went in depth on about 7 of them, right? And 4 of the top 15 Heisman favorites on FanDuel, Syracuse is facing next year. Cade Klubnik, Nico Iamaleava, Carson Beck, Kevin Jennings, and plenty of other really good quarterbacks. But in my opinion, the best, at least right now, and I'm recording this on January 31st at 2:26 p.m. Eastern, the best is Cade Klubnik, in my opinion. And Syracuse is going to play at Clemson in week 4 of 2025. And you guys agreed with me for the most part here on this week's Poll Friday. Over 200 votes this week. Cade Klubnik got 39% of the vote. Nico Iamaleava, he got 30%. Carson Beck, 27%. And other was at 4%. Now, I think that other should have been a little bit higher because there's a lot of potential beyond just those 3 quarterbacks. But of all the options, Klubnik, in my opinion, has the highest floor out of all of them with still potentially room to grow. And Cade Klubnik was absolutely outstanding in 2024. And he had a lot of doubts heading into the season, especially after week 1 when he played that game against Georgia and he just wasn't very good. He was 18-29 in that game, which is 62%, not bad. But he was not pushing the ball down the field. He had 142 yards and 1 interception, no touchdowns. And after that performance, a lot of people wanted to stick a fork in Cade Klubnik and the Clemson Tigers dynasty, you want to call it, or their run of national dominance. But after that point, after that game against Georgia, Cade Klubnik really proved a lot of people wrong. He had 3,600 yards for the entire year, which is a pretty good total, 36 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and he also ran for 7 touchdowns. And looking back on the all-conference teams, I have no idea how Cade Klubnik was not 3rd team All-ACC. Now, first team was Cam Ward. I don't think anyone's going to argue that. And second team was Kyle McCord. You can make an argument that Cade Klubnik should have been second team over Kyle McCord, but I don't think it would have been a very good argument. So let's just say that the top 2 were right. I think everyone pretty much agrees with the top 2. But in third, it was Kevin Jennings from SMU. And no disrespect to SMU, who was a college football playoff team, as well as Clemson this season. But Cade Klubnik should have been 3rd team. His numbers absolutely dwarf Kevin Jennings. Absolutely. So Cade Klubnik, in my opinion, he has the highest floor ceiling combination out of all the quarterbacks that the Orange right now are projected to face in 2025. Leave your thoughts in the comment section below, whether you agree or disagree with me on Cade Klubnik being the best out of them all, because coming up, we'll talk about some of the other quarterbacks the Orange are facing and why I believe I would take Cade Klubnik right now over each and every one of them. So stick with me here on Locked On Syracuse. Attending NFL playoff games is an experience like no other. The energy, the excitement, and the connection with other fans are unmatched. This year, Game Time makes it even easier to create those unforgettable moments with their new feature, Game Time Picks. It filters out the fluff and shows you only the best deals and great seats so you can focus on what matters, being there. I used Game Time Picks to grab tickets for an upcoming playoff game, and it couldn't have been easier. I found a super deal that gave me incredible value for amazing seats, and I could even preview the view from my spot before buying. The all-in pricing is a game changer. No surprise fees at checkout, plus knowing my tickets are backed by the Game Time guarantee gave me complete peace of mind. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. I'm Jackson Holzer, and this is Locked On Syracuse. And folks, on this week's Poll Friday, I asked you guys the question, who do you think is the best quarterback the Orange will face in 2025? Now, I say it's Cade Klubnik, and for the most part, you guys agreed with me on this week's Poll Friday. But in second place, it was Nico Iamaleava from Tennessee, and we're going to talk about him and the other quarterbacks here on this segment, all right? So Syracuse, in case you don't know, they're playing Tennessee Week 1 in Atlanta. That's going to be a fun way to kick off the 2025 season. Who knows what's going to happen in that one? But here's what we do know. That as of right now on FanDuel, Nico Iamaleava has the same Heisman odds, tied for third, with Cade Klubnik. Nico was one of the top recruits in the country in 2023 over at Tennessee. He was a 5-star quarterback. Everyone in the country wanted Nico Iamaleava. He didn't really play all that much in 2023. And in 2024, it was his first full season as a starting quarterback. And he was good, in my opinion. He was a pretty solid quarterback. Certainly well above average. He had 2,600 yards, 19 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. I would not be surprised if Nico Iamaleava next year throws for 3,600 yards, 40 touchdowns, and that interception total still stays low. I wouldn't be surprised at all if he puts up Heisman caliber, dare I say, actually wins the Heisman next season. Would not be surprised at all. However, Cade Klubnik, to me, after what he did last season, if you're telling me 1 year, Nico Iamaleava or Cade Klubnik, at least for right now, and it's subject to change, I would take Cade Klubnik. Not by much, though. I think it's a very, very close difference between Cade Klubnik and Nico Iamaleava. Now, also on that poll was Carson Beck. Carson Beck transferred from Georgia to Miami this offseason. He is coming off elbow surgery, so we have to see how he heals from that. And Syracuse is playing at Miami on November 8th. To me, with Carson Beck, it comes down to this. It's two simple questions. It's one simple question, I should say. Which Carson Beck are we going to get? Are we going to get the elite quarterback we saw in 2023 who could have been the number 1 pick or who was projected to be the number 1 pick in the NFL draft heading into 2024? Or are we going to get the good quarterback that we saw in 2024? See, I think because people believed that Carson Beck was going to be amazing in 2024, that after what he did, all of a sudden we have a different tone or different way of looking at Carson Beck, different perspective. Now all of a sudden is he really that good? He is really good. He is really good. It's just which Carson Beck are we going to get? Are we going to get the really good quarterback last year? Because if we get that version of Carson Beck in 2024, he's not going to be the best quarterback the Orange face. He'll be very good, but not the best. If we get the 2023 version, look out. He very well could win the Heisman Trophy himself. He's top 10 in the Heisman odds right now. As far as everyone else, I think they should have gotten a lot more consideration than what it did on this week's poll. I mean, Kevin Jennings from SMU, Haynes King from Georgia Tech, Darian Mensah at Duke, a transfer from Tulane. I do have concerns about Mensah just because he's coming from Tulane. It's not an easy adjustment going to the ACC. And Eli Holstein, I think, is a sleeper over at Pitt. All of them, in my opinion, of those 4, all of them have a chance to end up being the best quarterback the Orange face, particularly Haynes King. That dude's an absolute monster, and we have seen him before, actually multiple times here at Syracuse. If he can stay healthy an entire season with, I think, an improved Georgia Tech team with a slightly easier schedule, don't sleep on Haynes King. Don't. So out of all the quarterbacks, out of all the good ones, I would take Cade Klubnik, but I would love to hear from you in the comments section below who you think is the best quarterback the Orange will face in 2025. As far as what is coming up on the podcast tomorrow night, Syracuse basketball takes on Cal once again in California at 10 p.m. Eastern, and there will be a full post-game reaction podcast after that game. At least it's not an 11 p.m. tip. It's only a 10 p.m. tip, so you don't have to stay up too late to watch that game. So that's what's coming up on Locked On Syracuse in the future. And thank you for making Locked On Syracuse your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Locked On ACC podcast. Alex Dono and Kenton Gibbs, they keep it real and bring you the truth about where your favorite ACC team stands within the conference. Find Locked On ACC on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Folks, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for listening. If you like this podcast, be sure to hit that like button. If you really enjoy the podcast, be sure to hit subscribe. Tell all your friends about Locked On Syracuse so this channel can grow and reach all Syracuse Orange fans. And I will see you all tomorrow night after Syracuse takes on Cal.